How to find owners of vacant houses. Obviously, the easiest way to do that is just driving for dollars. Now, you can buy, I guess, lists that say they're vacant. I'm not sure how accurate that is. Maybe they're getting the list downloaded from some type of mailing source that verifies vacants or whatever. But generally speaking, those are I prefer houses that are vacant over houses that are being lived in, even though I've done a lot of both. But they're just easier to wholesale because it, buyers generally, for the most part, need to see the house. And so if someone's already living there, whether it's the person that's trying to sell the house, which I've done those, or somebody just living there, I've done that, but the owner doesn't live there or they're renting it out. I've done those. So vacants are easier to do for a number of reasons. And that's probably the main reason. Obviously, if it's vacant, the chances are increased greatly that there's going to be some motivation and sometimes a high level of motivation to sell the property. So let's get into some of I guess the nuts and bolts of it. So identifying a vacant house. Obviously, some of them are standing like a sore thumb. Sometimes you won't know that they're vacant because whoever owns it keeps the property up and just to make it appear to still be occupied to keep, I guess, vandals out or whatever. So obviously, the first one is boarded up. That's obviously vacant. Sometimes you'll see a house, the lawn and everything is still taken care of, maybe boarded up, but it may not be, and there are no curtains, but you can see straight through the house that no one lives there. Now, I've been fooled like that once. A house appeared to be vacant. You could see right through the house. You see there was no furniture in the part of the house that you could see in, and walked up, and the person opened the door. Can I help you? The only thing you could say, I thought the house was vacant. I buy houses, and we were just looking for some houses in this area. So I was just totally shocked. But that's one of the ways, obviously, you can identify that. You see right through. But you might want to look, that could be a crapshoot, but most of the time I'm right on that. Like I said, it's only one time that I can remember where I thought it was vacant and it wasn't. Oh, I'm sorry, it was another time also where the grass was really high and I thought it was vacant, but it wasn't. It wasn't vacant. So I was going to go to the next point here, but no lawn care. So that doesn't automatically mean that it's vacant. It's just probably got a lot of mad neighbors that this person is not taking care of their lawn and uglying up the neighborhood. Sometimes you can notice that the mail has piled up in the mailbox. If it's one of those mailboxes, well, it could be on the street or it could be on the actual the structure. Near a lot of times they're near the door, and you can see where the mail is just piled up in there, and it looks like it's worn. Not that it's really piled up, because sometimes they can receive a lot of mail at once, but the mail look like it's worn, meaning like from sun and from wind and water, rain. So that's another identifier. So that's just simply identifying what a vacant house appears to be, and sometimes they may not actually be vacant, so be aware of that. All right. So the rest of the street. Now, whenever you identify vacant houses, you can, in a lot of cities, I know especially in Baltimore, I get calls from people, non-students and students, and just may actually be a general question if I don't think they're trying to get a lot of information for free, but they'll mention a house. They'll mention a house, and my question is always going to be, how many other houses are vacant on the street? Well, it says there's probably 3 or 4 that are right together. It's rare you're going to be able to do something with that. It's rare. Now I know they have, just using that city, they would have what they call row houses. So it may just be 4 or 5, and then the rest of the street is okay. That may work, but generally speaking, I really don't like to see more than 2, maybe 3, depending on how attractive the street is and what part of town. But if we're talking blue collar, quote unquote, maybe in the hood, then when you start seeing 3, because what you have to think about is whenever you're a potential buyer / cash buyers, investors roll up, they're going to see the same thing. So that's not something that's attractive. Just identifying a particular area that someone wants to invest in. So I'm looking for how a streets, a block where, there may be one other, or maybe possibly two other houses that are vacant. All right. So the neighboring houses. All right. Now you may only have that one house that's vacant, but that's either the street is everybody's keeping up their lawn. Is some consistency there? Everybody seems like they're taking care of the properties, painted. So and it may be quote unquote the hood or blue collar area, but they're taking care of their street. Maybe this next street over might be horrible, but their street everybody's taking care of. So okay, that's something I'm going to look into. But if it's a street where there's trash everywhere, got furniture out front, people hanging out on the street, they're probably going to pass on that. Again, when your investors roll up, they're going to see the same thing, and a lot of times they're just not going to be interested in something like that. So you're probably wasting your time on things unless, now, let me just say this. Let me back up. Sometimes if you can get it cheap enough, and that's going to be relative to your market, but explain that situation in my market, if I can get it for between maybe $1,000 and $3,000, I may just give it a go, put some bandit signs out in the area. Sometimes you just get people that grew up in that area. They don't look at it the same as an investor that would never live in that area. But people that grew up in that area and may still live there, but they have 6 or 7 grand laying around and they always want to try to invest in real estate, blah, blah. Hey, boom, you may could pick up 3 or 4 grand quickly. You know what I'm saying? Just by putting out signs there. So again, if I can get it cheap enough, describing that type of neighborhood, what I just described, that's what will work for me. So in someone else's market, that may be $20,000 or $30,000, still in that type of neighborhood from what I'm explaining. All right. So again, as I explained, low activity, hanging out. I explained the rest of the street that matters. So the visual that you have to think in terms of the investor when they're rolling up, what are they going to see? And, a lot of times these people do not live in those areas. So they look for something as close as possible. Hey, I could possibly live here. A lot of times it doesn't matter what it's like, but you know what I'm saying. Consistency or cleanness of the street as far as the other neighbors taking care of their property and not that many vacant, not a lot of people hanging out on the street and so on. All right, so methods of locating on. So you've identified a property that you say, hey, this sounds like something I should target. Well, the first thing is the tax bill has to go somewhere. And what I mean by that is that all real estate, whether it's vacant land or a structure on a house, whatever, is being taxed. That's how stuff gets paid for. It's one of the ways how stuff gets paid for is through real estate tax. So the tax bill has to go somewhere. So that starts with either the county or the city, depending on your municipality, how your taxes are paid, where you live. But normally you can find this stuff online. Now, a lot of those websites, those governmental websites, whether it's a city, or county, or state, they're not always user friendly, and they're going to be a lot different from your county, your city, my state. They're just going to be different. So some people are a little bit more savvy, a little bit more, I guess, used to trying to figure out how to locate stuff like that on the internet, and others are not. So I understand that. So if I wasn't as internet savvy as I am, what I would do is I would just simply to do one or two things. I'll pick up the phone, call, find out, the tax assessor, maybe call some tax collector, maybe call something different in your state or your market, and find out what's their website, and can I search property owners on the site, who owns the property through that site, and then they may give you an idea of, now you can't do it through the tax site. Here's the other site to see who owns the property, or here's the place on the site where you need to go. Now, sometimes it may be difficult to get someone on the phone to help you with that. You may have to just actually go down there. I'm not beyond that. So, and I'll stand around and I'll look and see how some of the people that are working there and how they're handling customers ahead of me, and try to choose the one that seems like, hey, they may be the most helpful. Sometimes if it's females, me being a male, they'll work with me quicker than they will with a female, and vice versa. A male will work quicker with a female, so sometimes you play some of them games also, or whatever. But anyway, so those are the ways that you do. So the tax bill has to go somewhere. So that's what that means. All right. So neighbors. All right. So you may not have any luck even after you find who owns it through the tax bill, but you now have their name. So you may just go back out and just knock a few doors, the house on both sides of it and across the street. A lot of times those people know what happened with that house. A lot of times these people know, especially in the older neighborhood where you see a lot of people have been there for 15, 20, 30 years. They know exactly who owns the property. They may not know how to reach them, but they know who owns it. But a lot of times they know how to reach them. So, you contact the neighbors. You want to give them an incentive to actually work with you. You don't want to say, give me the person's name, the seller's name. You leave your number. Let them know, hey, if I buy this house, I will give you a $500 referral fee after we buy it, or $1,000, whatever the number is. So you give them an incentive to make it happen. All right, so Google is your friend. Sometimes it's just as simple as once you get the person's name, just Google their name. Maybe go to whitepages.com and their information is right there. I've done that a lot, a lot. It just, especially because you're dealing a lot where a lot of people have cell phones and they don't have house phones, but the age group that owns a lot of real estate, especially real estate that's paid for, are people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and older. A lot of them still have residential phone lines and their phone numbers are listed. And it's just, as I said, a Google search away. You may actually know their actual mailing address, so you Google their name and their mailing address. If they have a listed phone number, it's going to pop up. It just is, so you may have to search through some sites and you'll just notice their name, their address, your cell phone number. Normally, that's going to be their actual landline number. So keep that in mind. Google is your friend, just like YouTube is your friend. Guess what? Google is the mom of YouTube. Google owns YouTube, if you didn't know that. Food for thought. And we're on YouTube now. Bless YouTube. Social media. So now if you get a phone number sometimes and you're finding it difficult to reach that person, social media sometimes is an option just by doing a search on their name. A lot of people that you wouldn't think are on social media, they are. And the simple reason is, and I didn't learn this, I didn't come up with this, I just saw another guy mention it made sense, is that, I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk, but he said that Facebook has aged up, meaning that a lot of times the reason, like, I know my mom wants to be on Facebook and she's 70 plus, right? Everybody, she's been begging me to walk her through it. I just got to take the time out and do it and set it up on her tablet. But a lot of times the older people want to get there because their grandbabies or their kids or great grandkids are there where they can actually view them. Not really maybe the kids themselves, but the parents may post the kids' pictures out there and they just want to see what's going on. It's just people live their lives out on those channels. So that's a way to possibly reach out to someone. I've done that. I hadn't closed a deal from, but I have been able to reach out to some sellers that I was looking for through Facebook and found them, sent them a message. They responded. No, I'm not interested in selling at this time. Probably reach out to them again. But that all comes from because I located the name, because the tax bill has to go somewhere. All right, skip tracing. Now, the site here I have here is Intellis.com. And basically go there. It's just one of the people search sites. There are plenty others, but that's the one I like to use. And it doesn't cost that much per search, maybe 99 cents or $1.99. Sometimes they run a promotion where you can get a pass for $9.95 for 24 hours. But when you do that, you want to have multiple names that you're searching for. So you do a search on there, a lot of times they're going to come up with a phone number and an address. It may not be the current, but also what it's going to do is come up with a list of possible relatives. And so sometimes the relatives' information is clear as a bell there that you can reach out to them by phone or mail, but by phone, by just doing a cross search on the relative's name. And you just pick up the phone, and again, it's the same thing you did with the neighbor. Let them know who you are, you're interested in about a property, show that their relative owns the property. You give them an incentive, $500,000 if you buy the property. So you leave your number for them to contact. So they just get an incentive. So those are ways that you can locate on. And obviously, some of the ways that you're going to try to contact them is through direct mail, by phone. And if you're going to be there, you can be this bold. You take a bandit's time, and I've done it before, and but the result wasn't good for me. But I've heard others where the results were good. You actually either nail a sign in the yard, I actually nailed it up on the house. Now the house it was really torn up, but they called me like it was a brand new house. Come take that sign down, and I went out there and took it down. So but I've had other people to say they put a sign on it and the person called them and they did a deal. It didn't work out for me. I'm one of those people that I don't even know how I function. That's why I know if I can do this, anybody can do it. I didn't do it anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because of that bad experience or whatever. So, but again, that's just another method. So direct mail, obviously you can pick up the phone and call them. And you can go in, if you're bold enough, put a sign in the yard or on the actual house itself. And if they're monitoring it, or again, if the neighbors are, they'll give you a call. You can't, it may be good, it may be bad, but there's some motivation there. They call you there, bam, there's a deal. You could do that a lot. In reality, you can put a sign on a lot of vacant houses, and but again, the results may vary as far as people calling you and what the responses may be.